when I met my wife, as we started to get dating and whatnot, I asked her, I said, what project do you used to live in? She said, I never lived in a project before. So I thought she was very bougie, you know. I thought at one time or another, everybody from the inner city lived in a project.
Right. Uh,
So what time are we actually starting at? What, 12:15?
No, we will start. I'm a stickler for punctuality, Bishop, so we will start in the next minute or two.
Okay. Is that Council O'Malley?
That is me, yep.
Okay. Who's the current president now?
Himself.
New president. So I assumed when you said that, I said it must be you. All right,
I
congratulations.
drew the short stick. I was Kim's vice president, so I'm the president pro tem in our parlance. So
Congratulations.
thank you. All those declamations we had to do for so many years are finally paying off.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Talking about Boston Latin.
Larry, oh, we know. Oh my gosh.
And Matt, what class were you in?
97.
97. Oh, you're a youngster, man.
You
I'll be
were
60 this year. I'll be
No.
60 years old this year.
No way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, class
So you were-
of 80.
80. Amazing.
Yeah. We're the class that went to the Boston Garden. We lost. We played against Patrick Ewing. We almost won.
That's
Two of
right.
our top guys fouled out, and we lost that game. But we put
Amazing.
Latin on the map for basketball.
Absolutely.
You did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
great.
My Matthew played football there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Patrick was with Cambridge Ridge and Latin.
that's
Exactly.
right. That's
Exactly.
right.
He's coaching at Georgetown now.
Yeah.
I know.
I saw him playing Bishop in the Boston shootout. It was Boston against New York, and it was Patrick Ewing was on one team and Chris Mullin was on the other team.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
You couldn't see a better basketball game.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think we will get started, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll gavel. I should have read first. Kerry, we're good to go, I assume?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Good to
Thank
go.
you, Kerry Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt O'Malley. I am the President Pro Tempore of the Boston City Council. Today is April 7th, 2021, and in accordance with Governor Baker's executive order modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law, the Boston City Council is being conducted remotely. Viewers can watch the council meeting live on YouTube or by visiting boston.gov/city-council-TV. Madam Clerk, as we begin, would you please call the roll to ascertain the presence of a quorum?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Arroyo. Councilor Baker is absent. Councilor Bach.
Present.
Councilor Braden.
Present.
Councilor Campbell. Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Councilor Asabi George. Councilor Flaherty.
Here, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Councilor Flynn.
Here.
Councilor Mejia.
Present.
Councilor O'Malley.
Present.
Councilor Wu.
Present.
Mr. President, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. And could, I believe Councilor Campbell has joined us?
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Please
Thank
amend
you.
the minutes to reflect Councilor Campbell. I've been informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. I now have the great honor of turning the mic over to Councilor at Large Julia Mejia to introduce our clergy today. After the invocation is delivered, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Our invocation, of course, is no stranger to this body or to this city, Bishop William E. Dickerson II, Bishop of Greater Love Tabernacle Church, one of the finest churches in Boston. Councilor Mejia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm happy to introduce Bishop William E. Dickerson for today's invocation. Bishop Dickerson is a graduate of the Boston Latin School, and has called Boston home for almost his entire life. He is the founding pastor of Greater Love Tabernacle, the president of Restoration Ministries and Company, Inc., an organization designed to train 21st century pastors in five-fold ministry leaders. He is also the president of the Greater Love Community Cares, a nonprofit philanthropic agency that helps economically marginalized individuals and families. During the Boston's most violent and turbulent times in the 80s and beyond, Bishop Dickerson ministered to teens and men and provided resources and information which led to job training or employment. While working with the DLC prison system, he became more of an advocate for prisoners due to the conditions that the prisoners were enduring. During that time, he worked with prison inmates to develop programs such as Behind the Walls, video projects, dialogues with inmates when he spoke to various African heritage groups. We're incredibly grateful to have him here today and to give our invocation. Thank you, Bishop Dickerson. I'm so incredibly grateful to have you here. The work that you did in the 90s in terms of the Boston Miracle, you were front and center, and I'm so grateful to see you here today alongside us. So thank you. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you to Council President Matt O'Malley, and to all my friends. I see you all on this wonderful Zoom call on this afternoon, and I pray that God's blessings be with each one of you all. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together as, Lord, we stand together with the City Council of Boston. We pray your choices, blessing to be upon each one of them. Bless us in this session, Lord. May it be fruitful and productive, Lord, as they go forth to do the work of the city, Lord. And I pray, Father, that your peace will prevail. You spoke to the prophet Jeremiah, and you state, seek the peace of the city, for as it prospers, so will you. I pray that you will allow, Lord, these counselors, Lord, to be strengthened. I pray you'll bless their endeavors, Lord, not just politically, Lord God, but I pray you'll bless their families. I pray that the strength and the peace of God will be with each one of them. I pray, Heavenly Father, that you will touch this city, that you will, Lord, touch the marginalized people that are marginalized economically, Lord. Those that are dealing with adverse effects in the aftermath, Lord, of so much, Lord, hurt and pain because of homicides and because of deaths, Lord. I pray that your peace will prevail. I pray, Heavenly Father, that you would, Lord, allow this session, Lord, to be, Lord, a time of sharing, a time of reflecting, a time of doing the business of the city in a way that people, Lord, will always be at the forefront of the minds of these counselors, those people who are the least fortunate, especially. I pray, Heavenly Father, you'll bless the city of Boston. Bless, Lord, our Mayor Janey, Lord. Bless, Heavenly Father, all of these counselors as they're in their respective places. Bless, Lord, the Council President Matt O'Malley and all of these council members. I pray that you'll bless and strengthen their constituents, Lord, and allow your peace to prevail throughout the city of Boston. I pray that you will have your way. Let the peace of God prevail with respects to all faith traditions. In Jesus' name we do pray. Thank God. Amen and amen.
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 You see, Bishop.
Thank you, Bishop Dickerson, for those wonderful, inspiring words. Those that are able,
Mike.
please now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, where Councilor Mejia will lead this body.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag
flag
of the
United
United States of America,
of America,
and to the
and to the republic for
and
which it
one
stands,
nation under God,
God,
indivisible, with
with
liberty and justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
What you trying to trip me up, Nat?
You did great. Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Wonderful job, and
Nice
always
job.
great seeing Bishop Dickerson as well. Thank you all. Madam Clerk, would you please amend the minutes to signify that we've been joined by Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Asaibi George. I think that's
That's it.
everyone that we had previously been missing.
Correct.
Thank you. We're now moving on to the first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes. Seeing and hearing no discussion or objection, the chair moves to approve the minutes from the last meeting as presented. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Counselor Arroyo for the approval of minutes.
Yes.
Counselor Arroyo, yes. Counselor Baker. Counselor Bach.
Yes.
Counselor Bach, yes. Counselor Braden.
Yes.
Counselor Braden, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George.
Yes.
Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty.
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn.
Yes.
Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Mejia.
Yes.
Counselor Mejia, yes. Counselor O'Malley.
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. And Counselor Wu.
Yes.
Counselor Wu, yes. Mr. President, the minutes have been approved unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Now moving on to reports of public officers and others. Madam Clerk, would you please read dockets 0488 through 0498?
Certainly. Docket 0488, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Edward McGuire as Director of Neighborhood Services effective December 7th, 2020. Docket number 0489, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Aisha Miller as Chief of Civic Engagement effective December 7th, 2020. Docket number 0490, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Alexandra Valdez as Executive Director of the Mayor's Office on Women's Advancement, effective January 11th, 2021. Docket number 0491, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Kate Pomola as Director of Labor Relations, effective May 1st, 2021. Docket number 0492, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Midori Morikawa as Interim Chief of Economic Development, effective March 8th, 2021. Docket number 0493, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Caitlin Passafaro as the Director of Office of Intergovernmental Relations, effective November 16th, 2020. Docket number 0494, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Kerry Griffin as Director of Public Facilities, effective February 22nd, 2021. Docket number 0495, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Robert Melvin as Commissioner of Property Management, effective April 5th, 2021. Docket number 0496, notice is received from the mayor of the appointment of Christopher Osgood as Chief of Staff, effective March 23rd, 2021. Docket number 0497, communication was received from Sheila Dillon, Chief Director of the Department of Neighborhood Development regarding the City of Boston's 2020 annual report on Boston's affordable housing. Docket number 0498, communication was received from Maureen Joyce, City Auditor, regarding the City of Boston's fiscal 2020 comprehensive annual financial report and basic financial statement.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Dockets 0488 through 0498 will be placed on file. Please make sure you get a nice drink of water as we move on to matters recently heard for possible action. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please read docket 0214.
Thank you. Docket 0214, order for a hearing regarding an Alston Brighton master plan and zoning initiative.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes Councilor Wu, the chair of the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. Chair Wu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will defer most of the comments to the lead sponsor, but just wanted to thank everyone for taking part in this. We had a very thoughtful, very comprehensive conversation with so many community leaders, advocates, residents, and really want to thank members of the BPDA and various other parts of the administration for being with us. And thank you most of all to Councilor Braden and all the colleagues who joined us and heard from residents on the strong need for there to be some coordination, planning, and integration of all the various pieces related to development, transportation, open space, arts, schools in this neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilor Wu. The chair now recognizes the district council from Alston Brighton. Councilor Braden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councillor Wu, Chairwoman Wu. I really was very excited to participate in a very robust conversation yesterday about the need for a comprehensive master plan in Alston Brighton, the district of the second largest neighborhood in the city with a population of 75,000. And we have never had a master plan. We've had zoning, but we haven't had a master plan. So I think it was a very informative and engaging conversation yesterday. And I hope that we can continue to pursue this objective of having a comprehensive master plan that really will be inclusive and really work to through the lens of a public health lens and an equity lens as we plan the future of our neighborhood and all of the neighborhoods across the city. So I look forward to continuing to work with you on this, and thank you so much. And thank you to all the panelists and all the members of the administration who participated yesterday also.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. Seeing no further discussion on docket 0214, it will remain in the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. Madam Clerk, would you now please read docket 0396?
Thank you. Docket 0396, ordinance amending the City of Boston Code Ordinances, Chapter 6, Section 6-10, language and communication access for city services.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes Councilor Edwards, the chair of the Committee on Government Operations. Chair Edwards, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of the councilors for attending. Of course, the lead sponsor, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Braden, and Councilor Sabi George. Representing the administration was Jennifer Weaver Long, Director of Office of Language and Communication Access, Dominique Williams, Deputy Director of Equity and Inclusion Cabinet, Natasha White, Chief of Staff of the Equity Inclusion Cabinet, Kirsten McCosh, Commissioner of Disabilities Commission, and Anli, Senior Policy Advisor of the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement. We had some guest panelists also who started off the conversation, really explaining the context for and why we absolutely need to upgrade, if not expand, our language access in the City of Boston. Those panelists include Yvonne Espinoza Madrigal, Executive Director of the Lawyers for Civil Rights, Bethany Lee, Asian Outreach Unit Attorney for the Greater Boston Legal Services, Carolyn Chu, Director of Asian American Resource Workshop. As stated, the current, this would expand the current ordinance by codifying the Office of Language and Communications Access, and basically explaining the mission of the office, which will be to serve as the main contact for language and communication access services and plans. Currently that lies with ONS, and that would shift it over to this office to make sure that we have a robust plan for every single point of contact for the City of Boston. We discussed many things, and I want to thank Jennifer specifically for giving us buckets and helping us to guide our discussion. Those topics included adult illiteracy, text-to-speech, audio recording, vital document translations and definitions, timeline to produce or make best efforts is certainly when trying to introduce a document, making sure that all of the 10 languages identified are actually part of the introduction as well. Making sure we understood the number of people who would be required, number of languages that we would require based on the language access definition, and also how this would apply to quasi-government agencies such as the BPDA, looking at workforce development as well as BPS. Workforce development especially was important, that we wanted to bring them back to discuss the adult illiteracy program. Right now, we are working extremely hard to make sure we get, common ground on all the definitions. What we heard was support from the administration. I'm proud to say that, but we need to make sure that we're working in a working session, and we will have a follow-up one as soon as we can get folks back in the room to discuss how we move forward. But I wanted to congratulate the lead sponsor for pushing for this and making sure that we were headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Councilor Edwards. Did the lead sponsor wish to speak on this before we remand it back to committee? Okay, Chair now recognizes the at-large council from Dorchester, Councilor Mejia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to Councilor Edwards for chairing a great working session. It's always great to have her at the helm. She always breaks things down. We were fortunate to have been able to bring together an amazing group of advocates and representatives from the administration to talk about our vision for a city that gives everyone a voice in our city processes. We heard from Yvonne, who provided his support for our own language access ordinance. We also heard from Carolyn Chu, who mentioned that there is a need to really think about how we are directing constituents to interact with the city and to think about a single access point for people who speak languages other than English. We were also lucky to have Bethany Lee from the Greater Boston Legal Services to discuss the need for language lines for people to get access to important services. Walking away from the working session, we have committed to doing the following. First, we will work to create a definition for quote unquote vital documents, as well as financial constraints. Second, we will explore the idea of including a task force on adult literacy into the ordinance so that we can develop a better understanding of the scope of the problem. Finally, we have agreed to centralize the language access dashboard into one location. Moving forward, we expect to work on the timeline component for translation and interpretation services. We are an incredibly resource-rich city with incredibly hardworking public servants, and I am confident that we can find a way to release all of the information in all language in a timely manner. We look forward to the next working session and hope to see this pass soon. And I just wanted to just quickly underscore the gratitude for the administration who has worked with us for the last few months, even before getting to this point. We worked really hard to get this far. And so just really want to thank Jennifer and her team for diving in and being all on board around this, and to my colleagues that participated. This is both personal for me. As many of you know, I'm an English language learner. My mom did not make it beyond 3rd grade and struggles to read and write in her own native language. So I think when we think about information access and language access, I'm looking at this through an information justice lens and how important it is in making sure that everybody, regardless of what language they speak, are able to access information that can help them navigate city services. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Docket number 0396 shall remain in the Committee on Government Operations. Moving now right along to motions, orders, and resolutions. Madam Clerk, would you please read and place before the body docket number 0499?
Certainly, Mr. President. Docket 0499, Councilors Flynn and Bach offer the following order for hearing to discuss updates on the status and enforcement of short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you very much. The chair now recognizes the District Council from South Boston. Councilor Flynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I suspend Rule 12 and add Councilor Edwards as an original co-sponsor to this hearing order?
Seeing and hearing no objection, Councilor Flynn moves for suspension of Rule 12, and Councilor Lydia Edwards is hereby added as an original co-sponsor. Please proceed, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This hearing order is to discuss the status and the enforcement of the short-term rental ordinance passed in 2018. We are calling for this hearing due to a decision at the Zoning Board of Appeals last week opposed by myself and Council Bach, in which relief was granted for a large corporation to convert 26 units to executive suites on Battery March Street in the downtown area. It is my position that this decision runs contrary to the spirit of the 2018 ordinance, which sought to remove non-owner occupied properties, investor units, and large corporate operators from participating in short-term rental activities due to their impact on Boston's precious housing stock, the market, and the quality of life issues they present in our neighborhoods, such as trash removal, parking issues, late night parties every night. In 2019, we held a hearing specifically on this issue, which was echoed by civic organizations across the city, that large corporations could potentially continue operating short-term rentals in the same manner under the loophole of executive suites. We also look to again to discuss other concerns regarding enforcement of the ordinance, the eligibility requirement, and the screening process to remove investor units. In my opinion, the decision sets the precedent and opens the door for executive suites to be exploited by large multinational corporations to continue operating these de facto unregulated hotels. In recent years, there have been several similar proposals elsewhere in downtown and the South End. And my colleagues here in civic groups across the city, ADCO, the Chinese Progressive Association, the Bay Village Neighborhood Association, to name a few, we've had to stay vigilant to oppose these conversions every time they pop up at the ZBA agenda. And these companies are trying to be cute. They defer several times, trying to wait us all out and catch us napping. While executive suites use is exempt in this ordinance, that was mainly to allow existing executive suites to still operate for hospital, institutional, or business stays. We wanted to protect existing research, business, academia. What corporate operators are doing now is converting existing residential units into executive suites. That is not what the ordinance intends and what it was allowed to do. Our city has told other people who own property that they can't do this unless they're owner occupied. We've worked with ISD to identify a number of them, and we stopped them. After all that we've done, why are we going to let large multinational corporations come in and write their own rules and push people around just because they can hire staff and operate like an unregulated hotel? Outrageous. In the final analysis, in the midst of an affordable housing crisis, as we recover from both the pandemic and economic crisis, I find it unconscionable, disappointing that the zoning board approved last week's proposal from a large multinational corporation to convert 26 units. It's time for us to stand up for our values as a city. I, in this body, voted to ban these large corporations from operating these unregulated hotels because they take away housing stock. They drive up the market and present serious quality of life issues in every neighborhood. And finally, Mr. President, our hotels are struggling. These hotel workers are struggling. We need to get them back up on their feet. The last thing we need to do is opening up short-term rentals at the expense of hardworking immigrant workers, Black, brown, Asian, that rely on a decent paycheck to support their families. We don't need to bend over and help large corporations to make a profit in this city. The city is about our workers and their desire to work hard and present and provide for their family. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flynn. Chair now recognizes the District Council for Beacon Hill. Councillor Block, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleague, Councillor Flynn, for his leadership on this and for allowing me to join him, not only in this measure, but also in our repeated efforts to defeat these proposals at the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I think it's just really important to underscore that what seems like a one-off loophole could very easily become the loophole that that a truck can drive through to kind of undo a lot of the progress that, frankly, many colleagues on this council achieved in partnership with the Association of Downtown Civic Organizations and lots of advocates from around the city saying that, you know, our downtown neighborhoods need to be communities for people to live. And if we aren't firm on this, what ends up happening is people say, well, wouldn't this be a nice place to pretend to live for a few days? And before you know it, you have the kind of Disneyfication of the city and a situation where folks are not able to stay in their homes and long-term leases are not financially competitive compared to these short-term rental options. So I'm really grateful for the leadership, again, of many folks on this council in relation to passing the short-term rental ordinance. And I share Councillor Flynn's deep concern about the executive suites as a potential loophole. And we had thought that some guidance from Corporation Council related to Addison Street kind of in the pandemic, at least, was keeping a lid on this. And so you know, I think in light of the decision last week, it's time to have this broader conversation again. I also think it's just time for a bit of an update on where we are with the short-term rental ordinance. Obviously, the whole market's been thrown out of whack by the pandemic. And now as we think about an equitable recovery, we really do want to make sure that this is a recovery in which, as Ed said, we're helping support our hotels, in which we're making sure that health and safety regulations are really applying across the board in our hospitality industry. And I think there are some opportunities to fine tune implementation. And I think ISD has been receptive to conversations about this, but thinking about, for instance, like how people certify that they are executive suites, and maybe having a more rigorous process for that, and recognizing that there's something really different between, someone with a long-term permanent contractual arrangement with a hospital or a major institution that have folks coming for weeks and that are filtering through, versus somebody who is basically offering an Airbnb and once sent an email to a hospital administrator saying, hey, we're open for business in your area. I think we see really wide range of folks trying to qualify under this heading. And again, it's the principle of the thing and the potential result for all of our downtown neighborhoods if we don't sort of check the loophole at the offing. So glad that we're going to be having this hearing, and again, grateful to both Councillor Flynn and Councillor Edwards, my co-sponsors on this, and all of the councillors, including Councillor Wu, who were leaders on this before. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bach. The chair now recognizes the district councillor from East Boston, Councillor Edwards. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I wanted to actually just what Councillor Bach ended on, I wanted to start with and say thank you to Councillor Wu and her leadership as the main sponsor of the short-term rentals, our regulation that we have today. Not only was she a leader in that, but she was also viscerally attacked, if we all recall, and having to deal with that moment. And I want to thank all the colleagues we rallied around Councillor Wu to acknowledge that someone who is attacked by corporations for standing up for residents needs to not only have the backing of her colleagues, but also we need to send a strong message to corporations that we're not for sale. And so it was, and part of that conversation also was now acting mayor, but at the time, city councilor Kim Janey, who absolutely was part of helping to negotiate and make sure that when it came to short-term rentals, it really was the side income for owner occupants to make sure that they were not moved away from economic opportunities, but also not running a side hotel. So I would ask that we make sure that we are consistent in the way we voted before, and that today, it was disappointing to see ONS under the current administration support the executive suites happening. And I think that, I'd call on to make sure that we're consistent and that we look back on what we fought for as a council to make sure that we don't undo it unintentionally. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because I do know deep in the way that we advocated to see Councillor Janey advocate so much for short-term rentals to be regulated. We can't undo that now. So that's one thing. But also back to, not to echo and repeat too much of what my colleagues have said already, this is a time and a moment for us to rebuild in a more equitable way. And so if we are regulating owner occupants or even small owners from even having an Airbnb next door to them, we have eliminated that opportunity, and then turn around and support a corporation taking residential units and becoming executive suites. We're speaking out of both sides of our mouths. And so not only do I want an update, but I also want to see how we, as Councillor Bach said, regulate and also make sure that this doesn't happen again. We cannot afford to be taking residential opportunities off the market. It's hard enough to be a tenant because of the lack of opportunities that you have downtown and a lot of neighborhoods that you can even afford. So we need to make sure that we're making sure that residential units stay residential units. And actually, part of our biggest goal is to make sure those residential units are affordable. So I'm just excited to be part of this, to get the update, to make sure that we're enforcing this. We worked really hard. We were sued. If y'all remember, we were sued and we fought back. So it's time that we fight back again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. The chair now recognizes the at-large councillor from Roslindale, Councillor Wu. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you so much to our colleagues for making sure that the council is following up. Of course, we want to ensure that the spirit of the original legislation is matched in the enforcement of it, and that we're not standing by as unintended loopholes are being created and rammed through for those who have figured out a different way. Many of the same companies and actors who are involved in each situation before the various boards and licensing entities now were the ones that had lobbied most vigorously against passage of this ordinance. And so it is the exact same actors. And so there's a clear line being drawn here. But I also just want to emphasize that legislation should be revisited. We should, just as we've seen under the leadership of other colleagues, past ordinances that have been filed now, added upon the language access and communications access push with Councilor Mejia and thinking about paid parental leave. And this is an important place where we need to make sure that it continues to match what the reality is on the ground today. And so this was at that moment a compromise that was struck. And so we ended up with the most protective ordinance language in the country at that moment. But there were some concessions made from the council at that point. And so now we are past that moment of first crack at that legislation. We need to look at whether there needs to be further revisions and addressing some of the additional things that have popped up. So I'm in full support and making sure we are continuing to go back to this and ensuring that it matches this moment in time with the recovery and with the situation in the housing market of our city. So thank you so much to all of our colleagues. Please add my name.
Thank you, Councilor Wu. Madam Clerk, please add Councilor Michelle Wu. The chair now recognizes the district councilor from Alston Brighton. Councilor Braden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councillors Flynn, Bach and Edwards for offering this hearing order to revisit the short-term rental ordinance. I won't repeat what my colleagues have already said. The intention was to support owner-occupied short-term rentals that were owned by an owner-occupier, and to rent out an extra room if the owner lived in the building. So now we're 2 years down the line. I'm hearing from my district of instances of short-term rentals in bulk, like large numbers, up to 50 short-term rentals in some of the new buildings that have been constructed in our district in recent years. And it's basically luxury housing that is unaffordable for the neighbours. And I really feel that we need to sort of nip this trend and investigate it, look at it, and make sure that our Inspectional Services Department is adequately resourced to follow up and investigate these issues, and to also close any apparent loopholes that we are identifying at this point in time. It's really important that we empower our mom and pop owner occupiers to generate some income from their spare room or an extra apartment, if that's a way to enable them to stay in the city. But we should not be allowing corporate entities to take advantage of loopholes and profit from this situation. So please add my name. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Liz Braden. Any further discussion on docket 0499? Would any councillors wish to add their name to docket 0499? Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Anissa Asaibi George. Please add Councillor Julia Mejia. Please add Councillor Ricardo Arroyo. Please add Councillor Michael Flaherty. Please add Councillor Andrea Campbell. Please add the chair's name. And docket 0499 shall be referred to the Committee on Housing and Community Development. Madam Clerk, do you have an update on docket 0500?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do. Docket 0500 has been withdrawn.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Moving right along, Madam Clerk, would you please read docket 0501?
Thank you. Docket 0501, Councillor O'Malley offered the following motion to amend council rules to introduce the Committee on Boston's COVID-19 Recovery.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I speak on docket 0501, I would like to substitute language for this motion.
Seconded.
You're muted, Madam Chair.
Sorry about that. Councillor O'Malley has moved for substitution of the language. A copy of docket 0501 with the substituted language has been sent to your inboxes now by central staff. You take a moment to review the substituted language, please. Are there any objections on the substitution of language for docket 0501? Hearing no objection, Councillor O'Malley, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I move to amend the council rules to introduce the Committee on Boston's COVID-19 Recovery. I'm looking for a second to this motion.
Seconded. Seconded.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Arroyo. It is moved and seconded that the council rules be amended to introduce the Committee on Boston's COVID-19 Recovery.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In my time on this body, we've seen a number of special committees and new committees established, all important. One of the committees started by our former colleague, now Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, back in 2010 rather, was the Committee on Healthy Women, Families, and Communities. After that, we saw Councilor Arroyo's brother create a special committee on asthma. We've seen special committees on civil rights. We've seen special committees on the proposed casino in East Boston, going back now 7 or 8 years. Special committee on charter reform. All of these were obviously incredibly important. I think one of the most impactful committees that we now should be dealing with is our COVID-19 recovery. And I want to be crystal clear from the offset. The purpose of this committee is not to somehow take away from the really important and substantive work that's been done by each and every one of you as it relates to the pandemic, as it relates to healthcare, as it relates to small business, as it relates to education, as it relates to infrastructure. This committee is not to supplant that or take away from that. Those committees will continue working in this space as it relates to the pandemic and recovery. But we have an opportunity, and I would say an obligation, as it relates to dealing with the potential hundreds of millions of dollars, federal funds, some state funds will be coming to our city to help this city recover, as cities across the country are doing. With President Biden's administration, an aggressive plan, we already should see $400+ million coming to the city of Boston. Additionally, it's my understanding that there was added funds that were sent to Suffolk County. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but with the abolishment of the counties in the late 90s, early 2000s, the county commissioners for Suffolk County are actually us. The 13 members of the Boston City Council are county commissioners. So in addition to making sure that we're able to watch these dollars and make sure that they're spent correctly and effectively and equitably in Boston, I would argue that we also have an opportunity to look at Chelsea, Winthrop, and Revere, the 3 other communities that make up Suffolk County, and making sure we can support them from this vantage point as well. So the purpose of this this committee, Boston's COVID-19 Recovery, is to help have a central repository where many of these grants will be going forward. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not looking to duplicate any work. Through our budget process, the Ways and Means Committee will continue to be the vehicle to address these grants as they come in through the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. But going forward, to have a standing committee that can not only elevate the importance of this money, but make sure that we have an opportunity to come together to discuss this, to include community voices, to help highlight the important needed funds and support that we are getting from our federal and state partners, and make sure that they are distributed equitably, fairly, and effectively, is why I'm calling for the formation of this committee today. Again, I want to acknowledge the work that has been done by each and every one of you. Over the last 13 months, nimbly and quickly and effectively and passionately, we all have worked hard to make sure that we can position Boston in the best possible light, in the best possible position going forward as we hopefully recover. That's not going to change, and this isn't meant to somehow take away from the work that's been done. In fact, I would argue that this enhances it. But by having a centralized committee, a new Committee on Boston's COVID-19 Recovery, which will help oversee and disperse and bring people together as it relates to spending these hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially increase to close to $1 billion as time goes on, is the right prudent move to do. This isn't something that's new to Boston. Several other municipalities around the Commonwealth have done this. Springfield has done this. Worcester has done this. Beverly, Massachusetts has done this. The state legislature recently created a joint committee on this financing, so this will work nicely with that. So again, I look forward to continued conversation on this, but this is a motion, so I'll be moving to establish this committee today. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Malley. I will now turn the chair back over to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Braden. The chair now recognizes the District Council from Beacon Hill. Councillor Bach, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. And I just wanted to express my support and say Obviously, it's very important to me as Ways and Means Chair that we do have these grants coming to Ways and Means this spring, because of the fact that I think as I've discussed, I think with all members of the council and also with the folks on the administration side and the budget team, the reality is that that this money from the federal government is going to be part and parcel of what we're doing in all of our departments, right? And so we really want to make sure we're having a joined up conversation and making it maximally easy for our constituents to participate in that joined up conversation through the spring. But the reason I think it's a good idea to have a special committee in a context like this, it's actually part of the same reason I think it's so important that we have a Community Preservation Act committee, which is that I think as someone who believes in government and the ability of government to do good things, I think it's really important for citizens to see the results of major initiatives. And I think like in the case of CPA, obviously folks voted for a surcharge on their property taxes. And by focusing on CPA and what those grants are enabling, rather than simply rolling it in with our overall budget conversations, we highlight what people have done together by voting for those funds. And I think in this case, you know, we have the American Rescue Plan and touch wood, hopefully an infrastructure plan to come afterwards, is I think a once in a generation chance for us to actually show people what it looks like when government steps up to meet a really big challenge with really like major funds that meet the occasion. And I think that, you know, it's incumbent upon us as the sort of local level recipients of that to really highlight, and you do everything we can to highlight, to sort of like focus for people on the fact that that money's being well stewarded, it's being well spent, it's resulting in an equitable recovery, and it's frankly the type of federal policy and policy all the way down that they should continue to support at the ballot box. So I think that it's sort of a right and proper thing to have that focus. And as Councillor O'Malley said, the state legislature and other bodies have moved in this direction. So just wanted to say that I think on the Ways and Means side, keeping it with budget's important for the spring ahead. But I think the idea here makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Bach. The chair now recognizes the at-large council from South Boston, Councillor Flaherty. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously support the proposal as amended. And I just think based on my experience, anytime we as a council have had a standalone committee that focuses sort of narrowly tailored on a very specific issue. We did it with core reform, as just mentioned by our colleague, community preservation. It just it allows us to sort of have a designated review, and I think in this instance the committee will do just that. It'll provide a forum for people to learn about how the money is being planned to be spent, as well as to allow us as a body to provide input on how we would like to see that funding spent as the legislative branch of city government, and also dovetails nice with the individual work of the individual chairs of the committees, and the great work that they've been doing over the year gives them an opportunity to kind of weigh in a very specific forum in committee to address those issues. So I think additionally, it will help serve as a tracking mechanism for us, so it won't get lost in all of the different committees and what have you. So working, I think, in partnership as referenced through the budget process will be helpful. And again, it will give us an opportunity as the legislative branch to put our best foot forward. Our district colleagues know their districts better than anybody. And obviously the at-large councilors know the city well. And I think that being able to sort of evaluate those funds in one place will actually help us as a council, and also help the city as we move forward in recovery. So I appreciate the idea. I think it's a great idea and look forward to supporting it.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Any further discussion on docket 0501? Chair now recognizes the District Council from East Boston, Councilor Edwards. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I also want to echo my support for the creation of the new committee. I do believe we're meeting the moment and making sure that people understand we're dedicated and we have our eyes specifically on how, I think it's almost $1.9 billion potentially coming to the city of Boston, and how that is going to be distributed in, as the word of the day, an equitable way, in a way that also includes contractors of many different backgrounds, our minority business and women business. It is important that we look at this moment and this money as ways to help move us forward as a city. I'm really excited about those conversations. My question to the chair or to the potential chair of this committee is, would we consider where the two overlap, possibly having co-chairs or co-committee hearings? I know that's something we kind of walked away from in my first term, but considering, the work we've done with housing, for example, we come in there, we have a report on the rental relief, and it's been going so on and so forth. I don't see the point in having a separate housing one in housing. I'm happy to, as the chair of housing, for example, co-sponsor or co-mitigate or administer a hearing if we're going to be dealing with those grants. Maybe that helps also to streamline. And as Council Flaherty, it just really popped into my mind, made very clear, we don't want the money spread all over different places and different conversations at different times. I'd love to see a regular hearing. I'd love to see maybe even we set an amount. We're going to discuss $30, $40, $50 million in these hearings at a time and really get to the meat of the matter. So I'm excited about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards, and certainly collaboration is the driving force behind this committee, and I think that will be borne out in the weeks and months ahead. So any further discussion on docket 0501? Seeing none, it's now time to vote on this motion. Madam, I'm sorry, Councillor Braden, did you?
I think I was voting in support.
I see this. We will do.
We
We'll actually do
we
this.
have to have a vote, or yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. We will have to vote. Will have to be a roll call, but appreciate that. So on the creation of this new committee, docket 0501 in the amended draft, which all of you have received in your email box, now calling for a vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. President. On docket 0501 as amended, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Asabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0501 is amended, has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, do you have an update on docket 0502?
I do. Docket 0502 has been withdrawn.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please read and place before the body docket 0503?
Certainly. Docket 0503, Councilors Bach and Edwards offer the following resolution in support of an act to guarantee a tenant's right of first refusal. House docket 2984 and Senate docket 1672.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes the district council from Beacon Hill. Councillor Bach, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. May I suspend Rule 12 and add Councillor Liz Braden as an original co-sponsor?
Seeing and hearing no objection, Councillor Bach moves for the suspension of Rule 12 and the addition of Councillor Liz Braden as an original co-sponsor. She is hereby added. Councillor Bach, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. An act to guarantee a tenant's right of first refusal is it's sponsored by Representatives Livingstone and Consalvo and Senator Jalen this term, and it would allow tenants associations or an organization of their choosing, such as a local housing authority or CDC, to purchase rental buildings in the event of a sale or foreclosure. This is something that has come before the council before, and we were grateful for the council's support of TOPA in the last session, and with strong lobbying, certainly by myself and Councillor Edwards, but by a lot of advocacy organizations and the whole council and just like a million voices from every corner. We actually got this in as an amendment on the economic development bill and got it all the way to the governor's desk, at which point it was vetoed in the final hours of the last session opportunity. So that was extremely frustrating, and all the more so because just so many advocates in the city have been working for so long on this effort. And as somebody who represents a District 8 with very high housing costs, I've witnessed firsthand how tenant ownership anchors a lot of the most vibrant and diverse mixed income communities in my district. So from Mission Hills, Charles Bank to Mission Park to the co-ops of the Fenway, and really, allowing this opportunity for tenant ownership. It's something where the tenants would have to buy it at market value. It's not that the, business owners taking a bath, but it does set up this kind of long-term stable structure that also has an element of economic democracy that I think we really want to have flourish, where people have a financial stake in their own community and their homes in this deeply empowering and stabilizing way. Everyone knows I gave my first maiden speech on this body on cooperatives, and again, TOPA would enable a lot more of those. But for it to really work, our laws need to catch up to make this more possible. And one of the critical moments is at this moment of sale, creating an opportunity for tenants to organize, work with a partner, and buy their property. So, I think it's a common sense housing measure. I think, like I said, it was extremely disappointing to have it fail at the 11th hour last session, but we are back stronger than ever this session. And I think we're bringing this before you today. And I'm grateful for the partnership of Councillor Edwards and Councillor Braden, because we want to put a strong statement in support of this on the record for the council right here at the start of the session, and really push, because there wasn't time to override the governor's veto, just the way the legislative time worked last session, but we want to come back roaring on this. So I will ask you, Mr. Chair, to suspend and pass today this resolution, but obviously first yield to my colleagues for their comments.
Certainly. Thank you, Councilor Bach. The chair now recognizes the district council from East Boston, Councilor Lydia Edwards. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to support this and to continue to support the tenant's opportunity to purchase back. And that's exactly what it is. It's one more tool in the toolbox to give an opportunity, not a right, not an absolute, just so that tenants are at the table. The worst part is when a building is sold and there's a clear out, and the tenants were, one, even told about it, and two, until they get an eviction notice, but that they could have, if they organized, offered a market purchase price to the owner. And that's what this would do. It gives them the opportunity to compete in the market. That's it. And if they cannot compete in that market, that they could give it to give their right to some other entity that can, again, compete in the market. And I think that is what we're missing in this entire conversation. There's some sort of horrible rumor about this is going to stop sales, or that somehow people are going to be unable to get wealth from their properties. And that's just not what it is. The other thing that not only is it an opportunity, but it's an option, a local option, which allows them for local municipalities to add whatever special sauce onto this law to make sure that it doesn't hurt their individual housing markets. So again, opportunity, options, housing, these are things that we support. It was incredibly devastating to see it get through both houses and to see it vetoed by the governor. I think believing incorrectly that it was going to hurt people from being able to dispense with their property. If at anything, it allows for more people to become owners, whether through a cooperative, whether through a nonprofit organization, or through a housing authority. These are all opportunities and options to allow for different players to compete. I think competition is good. I think most people who are capitalists think competition is good. So all I can say is this is a wonderful thing. I hope that you will continue to support it, colleagues, and I hope we can pass this resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Edwards. The chair now recognizes the district council from Alston Brighton, Councilor Braden. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councillors Bach and Edwards again for including me in this resolution. I not repeat what they've already said. I think this is a really critical tool to give tenants the opportunity to and the right to purchase a building that they're being displaced from. I think that we need to use every tool in the box to help stabilize our communities, to stabilize the folks who are being displaced by speculative investment in the market, and a great way to really reverse the trends of recent years, especially out in Alston Brighton, where we've seen a massive decline in owner occupancy. And I really feel this is a positive measure, and I hope that we can get it through the State House and get it passed in short order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Braden. Looking for further discussion. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Seeing no further discussion, I'm now looking to see if any councillors wish to add their name as a co-sponsor. Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Michelle Wu. Please add Councillor Ed Flynn. Please add Councillor Nisa Sabi George. Please add Councillor Ricardo Arroyo. Please add Councillor Julia Mejia. Please add Councillor Michael Flaherty. Please add Councillor Andrea Campbell. Please add the chair's name and Councillors Bach, Edwards, and Braden move for suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0503. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Docket 0503, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0503 has been adopted unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you now please read and place before the body docket number 0504?
Thank you. Docket 0504, Councilor Edwards offer the following order for hearing to review central staff policies, procedures, performance, regulations.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes the District Council from East Boston. Councilor Lydia Edwards, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. You know, we've discussed as a body going out to Worcester. We've discussed as a body going onto college campuses. We've discussed as a body even supporting workers nationwide. And I feel that as a workers' rights attorney, a member of the UAW union, that if I can go anyplace else, it should actually be my own backyard. The fact is, central staffers work for us. The average central staffer has 13 bosses, and they're us. Not saying that we're not great, just saying that at the end of the day, when someone has to balance all of that, and they're politicians at that, with very big megaphones, it's that support other workers, that it's time that we review our own policies and how we treat the workers who work for us. This is not saying that we aren't good. This is saying if we can be better. And a matter of fact, there's some rights that we fight for other workers that some of our central staffers don't have, then we need to do that. I want us to look at the central staff rules and regulations specifically because they haven't been updated since 2013. There's been actually additional rights given to other workers that we haven't even incorporated in them, except for the order in 2018, which allowed for us to deal with harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. I actually think that we deserve a regular, if not annual, check-in on how we treat our workers. But also, there's a real concern about the separations of powers in the City Hall. You know, our workers work for us. We have also human resources. There's a confusion sometimes, and also in the complaint process, from us about central staffers, from central staffers, honestly, about us. So I think we need to have that difficult, honest conversation. We also need to truly and honestly incorporate in our culture City Councilor's annual review, or at least personnel review. So I look to you, President Pro Tem, to spearhead that. I don't know if I need to do a hearing order, but I do think an annual review or a review of where we are and how things are working, and for central staffers to feel heard and have a voice. You know, the thing is, and we forget this, central staffers don't have a formal contract with us. They have no union agreement. Again, 13 bosses, you can be a little exposed. They have extensive responsibilities and they've only grown. You know what happened when responsibilities grew when I was representing domestic workers? We called that job creep. And you know what I fought for? A formal contract. They're the only workers actually that have a contract without being in a union that actually cancels job creep. Because every time you add to their job, I demand that families pay their nannies or their house cleaners more. Let's be honest, colleagues, we've added a hell of a lot to central staff's job, and they have risen to the occasion, especially during this pandemic. I actually want to echo what Councilor Bach mentioned at one point, maybe the 2 hearing limit or a certain amount of limits on where and when and how to have hearings. At the end of the day, there's prep work before I sign on 10 minutes late. And there's, God knows, there's a lot of prep work after, or at least post work, to prepare the committee reports, to make sure that we look good. All of this they do without complaint. All of this they do excellently. I'm proud of our central staffers. I'm proud of every single one of them. And I think it's time that we make sure that our regulations and the way we treat them also reflects that. So I'm asking that we have a hearing, executive order, again, Council President Pro Temp, I leave it to your understanding of how to navigate this and where we go to be part of that conversation is performance evaluations. And the goal, to be very frank, is to update our regulations and to make sure without a doubt that they are the best regulations, and that if we can walk around, again, the whole state supporting workers, we absolutely should make sure our workers are treated the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any further discussion on docket 0504? Chair now recognizes the District Council from Mattapan, Councillor Andrea Campbell. The floor is yours.
I originally wasn't going to say anything, but because I think Councillor Edwards said it all, but I do think as we go through this transition, it really is important not just to celebrate central staff and frankly how hard they've been working and continue to work on behalf of each and every one of us. And it's a difficult time, obviously, with COVID. But this process and this conversation, I think, is long overdue. And so I appreciate you, Councillor Edwards, bringing it forward. But just wanted to say I support having this conversation, participating in these conversations. And of course, I love central staff, grateful to each and every one of them. So thank you.
Flynn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to echo what my colleagues have mentioned about the role of central staff, as they do so much work behind the scenes, but at times they don't get the necessary recognition maybe that they deserve and that they've earned. One issue I have always tried to focus on, Mr. President, is especially during the budget process, when we add more duties and more tasks to city workers, generation about when we do add more duties and assignments, can we make sure that they get recognized in terms of an increase in pay? That's a critical part of it. When you give someone an extra 4 or 5 hours, to include that aspect in this discussion as well. And as we approach budget season, let's ask the administration to stand with us and stand with our central staff so that they might be able to get an increase in pay, because they deserve it. Just like everybody else deserves a pay raise, they deserve one as well. So those are my, that's my 2 cents for whatever that is worth. Thank you, Mr. President.
It is worth a lot. Thank you, Councillor Flynn. Chair now recognizes the at-large council from Dorchester, Councillor Mejia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the sponsor for this bringing this to the forefront. I just would like to chime in really quick. When I think about the underpaid, I also want, while we're talking about this, want to also highlight that our staff, you know, we're giving a staffers can't even afford to live in the city of Boston, but have to live with 4 or 5 people. Conversation around workers' rights. Let's also think about this and making sure that all city council staff, including our central staff, are compensated in ways that do not put our folks in jeopardy for being unhoused, because the cost of living here in the city of Boston subsidize their housing. But we need to think about creatively how we're going to reconcile with the fact that a lot of our in crowded conditions just to be able to be public servants here in the city of Boston.
Campbell, Councillor Julia Mejia, Councillor Michelle Wu, Councillor Nisa Saibu George, Councillor Ricardo Pierre's name as well. And docket 0504 shall be referred.
September 2020, the culmination of over 3 years of working on the FH and with the city, they began negotiations regarding what would compromise the final report. In December of 2020, after the working group was convened to complete the report, by January 2021, and to include drafting and finalizing an executive order and reaching agreements regarding the executive summary. We're still waiting essentially for the city to formally adopt the recommendations of this committee report. So I am going on record that asking, especially since we are in April, which is Fair Housing Month, that the City Council recognizes at least the City of Boston's assessment of fair housing from this committee, and we support its adoption and implementation by the City of Boston. So I know that was a lot, but essentially we've had a lot of people in the community come together to do this massive report for the past almost several years. Going through all departments, making sure that we have fair housing integrated in everything that we do. And doing an assessment despite the former president's walking away from that obligation. The report's done. I support it, I read it. And from that report actually came the zoning amendment that we ultimately passed. So I just want to thank those committee members for their hard work, and the City of Boston as well, D&D, for working with them. But it's time, it's time to give birth to this. It's time to support it. And I hope you'll go on record, call it recognizing it, and also supporting its implementation and adoption.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. The chair now recognizes the district councillor from Beacon Hill, Councillor Bach. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to also express my thanks to the Community Advisory Committee, and just they've done amazing work on this. And also just a shout out, I think I've mentioned this once before, but I was at the BHA when the Housing Authority was collaborating with D&D and advocates around this report. As Councillor Edwards says, it's been a long time coming, and was there when the Trump administration pulled back and frankly, not only pulled back on the requirement to finish this, but actually eventually deleted the data website that housing authorities were using to work on this in cities, because they were trying to make it impossible to affirmatively further fair housing at the local level, which was really disgraceful. And I was so proud of how the City of Boston responded at that time. And I want to just enter a particular shout out to Wilbur Commodore, who we lost a couple of years ago, but was the trailblazing Black general counsel of the Boston Housing Authority, who was really spearheading this effort on our side as an agency, and who I still think about quite a lot in relation to this effort. So I just want to acknowledge Wilbur, all the many hands that have gone into this, my pride in the City of Boston of deciding to do it when the Trump administration stepped back, and just echo the sentiment that we should drive it to a conclusion. So thank you so much, and thank you to the sponsor.
Thank you, Councillor Bach, and I assume you'd like your name to be added?
I would, yes, please.
Yes, Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Kenzie Bach as a co-sponsor. Any further discussion on docket 0505? Seeing none, would any councillors wish to add their name? Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Julia Mejia. Please add Councillor Liz Braden. Please add Councillor Michelle Wu. Please add Councillor Nisa Asaibi George. Please add Councillor Andrea Campbell. Please add Councillor Michael Flaherty. Please add Councillor Ricardo Arroyo. Please add Councillor Ed Flynn. Please add the chair. And Councillor Edwards moves for suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0505. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Docket 0505, Councillor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councillor Arroyo, yes. Councillor Baker. Councillor Bach.
Yes.
Councillor Bach, yes. Councillor Braden.
Yes.
Councillor Braden, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Campbell, yes. Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Councillor Edwards, yes. Councillor Asaibi George.
Yes.
Councillor Asaibi George, yes. Councillor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councillor Flaherty, yes. Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn, yes. Councillor Mejia.
Yes.
Councillor Mejia, yes. Councillor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councillor O'Malley, yes. And Councillor Wu.
Yes.
Councillor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0505 has been adopted unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Would you please now place before the body docket number 0506?
Docket 0506, Councillor Edwards offer the following resolution in support of the Fair Share Amendment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes the district councillor from East Boston. Councillor Edwards, the floor is yours.
Apologies, I had to come off of mute. So again, I'm here in support of the Fair Share Amendment. We're 1 year into COVID, the public health and economic crisis that has impacted thousands of Massachusetts families and small businesses. We're just simply struggling to get by. However, the stock market has continued to soar, and multimillionaire investors have seen their net worth skyrocket. The 19 billionaires in Massachusetts actually saw their wealth increase by $17 billion during the first 3 months of the pandemic alone. The Fair Share Tax Amendment is a proposal to amend the Massachusetts Constitution, creating an additional tax of 4 percentage points on the portion of the person's annual income above $1 million. This is their annual income. And again, you have to at least make $1 million for it to apply to you. And it's only on that money after that $1 million that it applies. The new revenue, if this were to happen, would be approximately $2 billion a year, and would be spent on public education, public colleges and universities, and repair and maintain our roads, bridges, and public transportation. To ensure that the amendment continues to apply only to the highest income taxpayers who have the ability to pay more, the $1 million threshold would also be adjusted each year to reflect the cost of living increases. So this is not a flat, complete, $1 million today isn't necessarily going to be $1 million 10 years from now. So it is adjusting up. Massachusetts basically needs new investments. I don't think anyone denies that. RT is struggling. We need to make sure that we have funding and regular funding dedicated to it. Our public education systems, we have also immense disparities in them before COVID. And now those investments are needed even more to lift our economy and to make sure that we as a state can recover in the most equitable, fair way. I pay my fair share in taxes. We can talk about the universities and the pilot payments another day. We talk about it actually every day. But at least for right now, I think that we need to be honest. We need people to contribute more. And we need, especially those in the billion and millionaire classes, to contribute their fair share. This helps all of us. This helps us grow as a state. So I hope that you, as my colleagues, would agree with me and that go on record in support of this, the Fair Share Tax Amendment.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Any further discussion on docket 0506? Seeing no hands raised. Any councillors wish to add their name as a co-sponsor on docket 0506? Madam Clerk, please add Julia Mejia. Please add Liz Braden. Please add Michelle Wu. Please add Andrea Campbell. Please add Ricardo Arroyo. Please add Anissa Saibi George. Please add Ed Flynn. Please add Kenzie Bach. Please add the chair. And docket 0506, the sponsor, Councillor Edwards, has moved for suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0506. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you. Docket 0506, Councillor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councillor Arroyo, yes. Councillor Baker. Councillor Bach.
Yes.
Councillor Bach, yes. Councillor Braden.
Yes.
Councillor Braden, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Campbell, yes. Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Councillor Edwards, yes. Councillor Asabi George.
Yes.
Councillor Asabi George, yes. Councillor Flaherty.
No.
Councillor Flaherty, no. Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn, yes. Councillor Mejia.
Yes.
Councillor Mejia, yes. Councillor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councillor O'Malley, yes. And Councillor Wu.
Yes.
Councillor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0506 has been adopted.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Would you now please read and place before the body docket number 0507?
Thank you. Docket 0507, Councillor Edwards offered the following resolution in support of Student Workers Union and fair labor practices in Boston's institutions of higher education.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. The chair now recognizes the district councillor from East Boston, Councillor Lydia Edwards. The floor is yours. You are muted, Councillor Edwards.
I'm back. My apologies, Councillor O'Malley. My apologies. I intend to I know I don't need to suspend Rule 12 to add Counselor Braden, as there's only 2 of us, but I'd like to move to add Counselor Braden as an original co-sponsor.
She is hereby added. Counselor Braden is the co-sponsor on docket 0507.
Thank you very much, Counselor O'Malley. So I'm here today to basically call on the universities again to do right, not just by our neighborhoods, but by the students that pay a lot of money to attend them. Fact is, student workers, graduate student workers, are doing an incredible amount of work, oftentimes without being paid even the minimum wage. I know for many, they assume that because you get paid or you have discounts on your tuition, that should be considered enough. It isn't. Many of them do not have protections against discrimination. They do not have pregnancy leave acts or any of those rights that apply to them. Many of them working under horrible conditions, and also with the entire time, your degree, your PhD being held over your head as to whether you do or don't accept sexual harassment, as to whether you do or don't accept 4 a.m. calls and random work hours, as to whether you do or don't accept a certain amount of hazing. That's offensive. The fact is, student workers at Harvard, Boston University, Boston College, and Northeastern and other institutions are organizing and have been organizing to advance their labor rights. I was so proud of the hearing we had, I think in 2019, when we literally packed the entire hall, not just of student workers who are in graduate student unions, but all union workers. We had Local 26, we had the trades, we had SEIU, and they all stood in solidarity with graduate student workers. Matter of fact, it was on April 24th, 2019, that we voted to support graduate student unions. Unfortunately, again, under the Trump administration, they were trying to change the NLRB regulations to basically cancel all graduate student unions. We still rallied and continue to have hearings and also working sessions to make sure that we were pushing and advancing that forward. They perform critical functions, teaching, research, and other areas. And at Harvard, there are nearly 1,700 graduate student workers who work in research and as assistants and teachers' assistants. In June 2020, the Harvard Graduate Student Worker Union, under the UAW, my union, reached a tentative 1-year contract with Harvard. It was later ratified by 96.9% of the union members. The contract unfortunately expires on June 30th, 2021, and they're in the middle of negotiations right now with the university. I am calling on my colleagues to demand that Harvard negotiate in good faith, and that Harvard as an institution respects the union that is there, respects the right for workers to organize, and respects them the best way with a fair contract, with improved protections for healthcare, paid family and medical leave, protections for international student workers, that includes pay increases, and of course, protections for gender identity and power-based discrimination and harassment. These are things that I think make for a decent, fair workplace, and we already know as the City Council, we stand up for that everywhere. So I call my colleagues again for another resolution and calling on Harvard to negotiate fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. The chair now recognizes the District Council from Allston Brighton. Councilor Braden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, Allston Brighton is home to 3 universities. We have Harvard, we have BC, and we have BU. So many of these students that we're graduate student workers that we're talking about are actually my constituents in our district. I want to thank Councillor Edwards for including me today, as I'm pleased to go on the record to support fair labour standards and practices for colleges and the right to collectively bargain for student workers and unions. Student workers are part of what makes these institutions function. So much of the cutting edge research is conducted by these student workers in labs and research facilities on our college campuses, and they're part of the fabric of our communities, as I've already mentioned. Their well-being, economic stability, and the quality of life are essential essential to their life in the city. They have to live here. They are part of our community, so it's really important that they have the ability to organize and to negotiate for fair labor practices. As a city, we must ensure that our institutional neighbours and partners recognise student workers and their unions and come to the negotiating table to bargain in good faith. As with assessing and procurement of city contracts and permits, we must likewise assert that the labour standards and practices of how the city's academic institutions treat their workers and take all these issues into account. Therefore, I'm very proud to support this resolution today and hope that our universities will negotiate in good faith in the case of Harvard, and also in the case of BC, actually recognise their students, their student workers, and allow them to organise on campus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Braden. Chair now recognizes the at-large councillor from Dorchester, Councillor Mejia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the sponsors for this resolution. When I was in college, I had to work 2 to 3 jobs just to be able to afford college. So I am in full support of this resolution and would like to add my name. And I also just would like to make note that aside from the students, there are a lot of workers on college campuses right now who are ununionized, who aren't part of a union, basically. And because of that, are unable to make their ends meet because they don't have proper representation. So their wages are lower than what they should be. I'll just talk really quick. The example is my mom. She's been working at a local college for 20-something years as a food handler, and she's too poor to retire because she's never had union representation. And I think it's issues like this, organizing and supporting student workers now in college is what I think is going to disrupt the continued abuse towards our students. So I'm just really grateful to the sponsors, and Mr. President, please add my name.
Thank you, Councillor Mejia. Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Julia Mejia as a co-sponsor. Chair now recognizes the District Councillor from Beacon Hill, Councillor Kenzie Bach. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Councillor O'Malley, and thank you to Councillor Edwards for introducing this. I just want to express my strong support. When I was a PhD student myself over across the ocean, I was back home in Boston and was actually in the living room of some friends as the first deliveries of the cards to demand the graduate student union at Harvard appeared. And so I got to be there for unboxing those and was really just amazed by the intense multi-year organizing work and strategy that graduate student workers engaged in to make this union happen. And I think it really is, it's super important for these workers, and a large number of them work in my district at the Longwood Medical Campus. So I speak on the issue as a counselor, but I also speak on the issue as still a lecturer at Harvard, and somebody who's seen the adjunctification of the academy. So increasingly, you have a situation where work gets pushed down with less compensation and less power in this in a very hierarchical structure, where a lot of the old pathways for graduate students to then get tenure track jobs and ultimately get tenure and be on a path to a really stable career are sort of, those pathways are foreclosed. And so you have increasingly less and less well-compensated work being pushed down both to adjuncts and to graduate student workers. And I think it's exactly the kind of thing that a union is designed to fight back on. And as Councillor Mejia says, I think, in order to really rebuild the idea of worker power in this country, we need to be looking to unionize in all kinds of industries and on all kinds of fronts, and just recognize the dignity of work and the right of people to have a say in their employment conditions in every field. So just a strong supporter, was proud to be out on the picket line with the Harvard graduate student workers right before taking office, and definitely both with my lecturer hat and my counselor hat, a strong supporter of them and of similar efforts around the city. So just wanted to thank Councillor Edwards, and please add my name.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bach. Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Kenzie Bach as a co-sponsor. The chair now recognizes the at-large council from Rosendale. Councillor Michelle Wu, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank the sponsor for her leadership on this issue for many years at this point, and to thank and just give every bit of further advocacy, urging a heart to so many of the leaders on the ground, the activists who have been working and fighting and are this close. We want to make sure that such a huge part of the workforce in the greater Boston area is recognized, is lifted up, no longer remains invisible, and that our anchor institutions in the area are setting the standard for what fair working conditions look like across the entire country and beyond. So there's a lot on the line here, and I'm eager for this council once again to stand with workers and to recognize the stakes in this moment, and what an example and ripple effect we will have when this happens. Thank you so much. Please add my name.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Please add Councillor Michelle Wu as a co-sponsor. Any further discussion on docket 0507? Seeing no takers, any councillors wish to add their name as a co-sponsor? Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Ed Flynn, Councillor Andrea Campbell, Councillor Anissa Asaibi-George, Councillor Ricardo Arroyo, Councillor Michael Flaherty. We've added Councillor Mejia, and please add the chair's name as well. Councillors Edwards and Braden move for suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0507. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Docket 0507, Councillor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councillor Arroyo, yes. Councillor Baker. Councillor Bach.
Yes.
Councillor Bach, yes. Councillor Braden.
Yes.
Councillor Braden, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Campbell, yes. Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Councillor Edwards, yes. Councillor Asaibi-George.
Yes.
Councillor Asaibi-George, yes. Councillor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councillor Flaherty, yes. Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn, yes. Councillor Mejia.
Yes.
Councillor Mejia, yes. Councillor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councillor O'Malley, yes. And Councillor Wu.
Yes.
Councillor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0507 has been adopted unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Would you now please read docket number 0508?
Docket 0508, Councillor Asaibi-George offer the following resolution recognizing April as National Arab American Heritage Month.
Thank you very much. The chair now recognizes the at-large council from Dorchester, Councillor Anissa Asaibi-George. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. I'm pleased to say that April is National Arab American Heritage Month. I filed this resolution to celebrate the Arab American community, especially those who were and are Boston residents. Waves of Arab immigrants to Boston entirely reshaped our city, especially in the South End. Boston has been home to some famous Arabs and Arab Americans, including the poet and writer Khalil Gibran and Red Sox player Joe LaHood. I am so proud to be an Arab American. I think the first Arab American city councilor. I know my father and my family in Tunisia are proud too. Like all immigrant communities, ours is a resilient one that has experienced great hardship and great joy here in Boston. I ask that we suspend the rules and pass this resolution to honor all Arab Americans in Boston and across the country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councillor Asaibi-George. Any further discussion on docket 0508? Seeing none, any councillors wish to add their name as a co-sponsor? Madam Clerk, please add Councillor Ed Flynn, Councillor Michelle Wu, Councillor Andrea Campbell, Councillor Liz Braden, Councillor Ricardo Arroyo, Councillor Lydia Edwards, Councillor Michael Flaherty, Councillor Kenzie Bach, Councillor Julia Mejia. Please add the chair as a co-sponsor as well. And Councillor Asaibi-George is seeking suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 0508. Would you please call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Docket 0508, Councillor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councillor Arroyo, yes. Councillor Baker. Councillor Bach.
Yes.
Councillor Bach, yes. Councillor Braden.
Yes.
Councillor Braden, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Councillor Campbell, yes. Councillor Edwards.
Yes.
Councillor Edwards, yes. Councillor Asaibi-George.
Yes.
Councillor Asaibi-George, yes. Councillor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councillor Flaherty, yes. Councillor Flynn.
Yes.
Councillor Flynn, yes. Councillor Mejia.
Yes.
Councillor Mejia, yes. Councillor O'Malley.
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes, and Counselor Wu.
Yes.
Counselor Wu, yes. Mr. President, docket number 0508 has been adopted unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Congratulations, Councillor Sabi George, and it's my honor to wish all of Boston a happy Arab American Heritage Month. We are now moving on to personnel orders. Madam Clerk, would you please read docket 0509?
Certainly. Docket 0509, Counselor O'Malley for Counselor.
The Chair seeks suspension of the rules and passage of docket 0509. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Docket 0509, Counselor Arroyo.
Yes.
Counselor Arroyo, yes. Counselor Baker. Counselor Bach.
Yes.
Counselor Bach, yes. Counselor Braden.
Yes.
Counselor Braden, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George.
Yes.
Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty.
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn.
Yes.
Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Mejia.
Yes.
Counselor Mejia, yes. Counselor O'Malley.
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. And Counselor Wu.
Yes.
Counselor Wu, yes. President, docket number 0509 has passed unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving right along to late files. I'm informed by Clerk Feeney that there is one late file matter. It is a communication from our our colleague, Councillor Frank Baker, regarding his absence from today's meeting. The late file matter is being sent in everyone's email, should be received presently, and we are first taking a roll call to add this item to the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. First late file, Counselor Arroyo.
Yes.
Counselor Arroyo, yes. Counselor Baker. Counselor Bach.
Yes.
Counselor Bach, yes. Counselor Braden.
Yes.
Counselor Braden, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George.
Yes.
Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty. Counselor Flaherty. Counselor Flynn.
Yes.
Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Mejia.
Yes.
Counselor Mejia, yes. Counselor O'Malley.
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. And Counselor Wu.
Yes.
Counselor Wu, yes. Mr. President, the first lay file is properly before the body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you please read it into the record?
Certainly. Frank Baker, Boston City Councilor, District 3, April 7th, 2021. Dear President Pro Tempore O'Malley, please be advised that I will not be in attendance at the Boston City Council meeting on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Sincerely, Frank Baker, Boston City Councilor, District 3.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This late file matter will be placed on file. Moving along to the green sheets, do any colleagues wish to remove a matter from the green sheets? They may do so at this time. Speak now or forever hold your peace, or at least for a week, hold your peace. Seeing no takers, we are moving right along to the consent agenda. I'm informed by the clerk that there are 0 additions to the consent agenda this afternoon. Chair moves for adoption of the consent agenda as presented. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. For the consent agenda, Counselor Arroyo.
Yes.
Counselor Arroyo, yes. Counselor Baker. Counselor Bach.
Yes.
Counselor Bach, yes. Counselor Braden.
Yes.
Counselor Braden, yes. Counselor Campbell.
Yes.
Counselor Campbell, yes. Counselor Edwards.
Yes.
Counselor Edwards, yes. Counselor Asabi George.
Yes.
Counselor Asabi George, yes. Counselor Flaherty.
Yes.
Counselor Flaherty, yes. Counselor Flynn.
Yes.
Counselor Flynn, yes. Counselor Mejia.
Yes.
Counselor Mejia, yes. Counselor O'Malley.
Yes.
Counselor O'Malley, yes. Counselor Wu.
Yes.
Counselor Wu, yes. Mr. President, the consent agenda has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We are now moving on to the announcements section of this council meeting. Do any colleagues have any announcements to make and share? Please signify by raising your hand, virtually or otherwise. Chair now recognizes the District Council from East Boston. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have some sad news to share today. One of our For those of you who know Ellie who worked for us as in our municipal police officers or as one of our security guards for many years. She retired, I think, last year. Unfortunately, I was told this morning by Judy Evers, the First Lady of Charlestown, that her husband died suddenly. And so Ellie, as you know, she is salt of the earth, and she is naturally dealing with this loss. But for many people in Charlestown, Jimmy Talent, or Jimma, as he was affectionately known, was a good man, or as Judy says, he was just loved by a lot of people, and he was a good guy. And anybody who finds out about it immediately is choked up. He's been known to just brighten the room when he walks in there to help out with everything. He's a plumber, and he would work probably little or nothing trying to help people just make it. Her loss is our loss. You know, we see those folks, the municipal police officers, they work 24 hours all the time for us, and they never stopped, even in this pandemic. They didn't have the option to work virtually. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that loss of one of our own, and that she's in pain right now. And so information about the wake and so on and so forth will be made public, but I just wanted us to go on record and express our condolences as a city council to Ellie for her loss of her husband, Jimma.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards, for sharing that very, very sad news. The chair now recognizes the district councillor from South Boston, Councillor Flynn. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I also wanted to highlight the life of an incredible woman in South Boston who recently passed away, who was friends with myself and Councilor Flaherty, Mrs. Roseanne Bailey Casper. We know the Casper family and the Woods family and the Bailey family for so many years, but Roseanne Casper was a wonderful woman, wonderful mother and wife, raised great children here in South Boston, and was active in so many various organizations, and was one of the co-founders, I think, of the South Boston Irish American Society. And you know, she loved to educate people about the proud Irish community, but also about the Irish telling their stories in song. So I used to go over their house all the time and listen to Noel Henry would be performing, playing a concert, and would all be there singing, having a wonderful time. But I'm friends with a lot of her children, Mrs. Casper's children. And on behalf of myself and Councilor Flaherty and in the body, we just wanted to let the Casper and the Woods and the Bailey family know that we're thinking of them, and that they're in our prayers during this difficult period of time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councillor Flynn, and thank you for sharing that sad news as well. Any further announcements before we move on to memorials? Chair now recognizes the at-large councillor from South Boston, who is celebrating a certain sartorial splendor today, which I'm very supportive of. Councillor Michael Flaherty, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Trying to urge the spring to get here sooner. Just want to recognize, and you guys would remember her, and that's Mrs. Eileen Hennessy. She would be right at the front door ripping butts as we were coming and going from City Hall. Always had a nice word to say to any member of the City Council, and anytime you had an opportunity to chit chat with her. Obviously very knowledgeable, but you know, she spent she'd spend her coffee break or her lunch break literally right at the front door of City Hall. So I regret to inform folks that she had passed away, and I just want to offer condolences to the Hennessy family on behalf of the entire City Council. And you might not know her by the name, but I can guarantee you have walked by her hundreds of times coming and going from the building. And so a lovely person, always again with a nice thing to say or a warm smile. Appreciated the work that we did as councilors. She's one of those unsung heroes in city government that comes to work every day to help keep the city running. And it's with regret that I inform you that she will no longer be that ever presence out front of the building as we come and go.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Again, Very sad news to share, but appreciate all colleagues talking about some of these wonderful friends and colleagues of all of ours. So any further announcements before we move on to memorials? Seeing and hearing none, today we will adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. And sorry, Councilor Flaherty, I wanted to add Mrs. Hennessy's, could you please repeat her first name so I can add her properly?
Yes,
before-
Mary Ellen, I'm sorry, Mary
Mary
Ellen.
Ellen, thank you. Okay, so today we will adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Arroyo, Luis Antonio Diaz. For Councilors Flaherty, Flynn, and Asaibi George, Roseanne Bailey Casper. For Councilor Edwards, on behalf of all councilors, Jimma Talent. And for Councilor Flaherty, on behalf of all councilors, Mary Ellen Hennessy. Please, a moment of silence. Chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory and in honor of the aforementioned individuals. We are scheduled again to meet remotely next Wednesday, April 14th at 12 noon. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The council stands adjourned until next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.